Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're going to break down a sermon that asks a really provocative question, one that, let's be honest, a lot of people have probably wondered about. It really gets to the heart of what it means to live out your faith. Okay, so let's just dive right in with the big question from the sermon. It's a critique you've probably heard before, or maybe even a question you've asked yourself. If this belief is so life-changing, why don't its followers always look, well, changed? The sermon uses this really powerful image to frame the problem. The danger, it suggests, is becoming a spiritual chameleon, just perfectly blending in with the culture around you to the point where any distinct faith becomes totally invisible. And this slide hits it with some seriously relatable analogies. It's all about that jarring feeling when the label just doesn't match the lifestyle. It's like seeing someone in a team jersey who's clearly not playing the game. Or that honor student bumper sticker on a car that's driving like a total maniac? You get the idea. And this right here, this is the core idea of the entire message. The sermon is arguing that the goal isn't just about making small tweaks to your behavior or becoming a slightly nicer person. No, the intended result is something way more radical, becoming fundamentally new.
So it's absolutely crucial to get what transformation means in this context. And the sermon makes a really sharp distinction. This isn't about being reformed on the outside just by trying harder. It's about being regenerated from the inside out by a spiritual power.
All right, let's keep going. So if someone is truly made new, what does that actually look like? What changes? Well, the sermon points to three specific interconnected areas where this transformation should start to show up. And this slide really lays out just how complete this change is meant to be. See, it's not just one thing. The sermon talks about it like a domino effect that totally changes who you are, what's growing inside you, and then how you deal with everyone around you. So first up, identity. The sermon says a huge part of this change is a brand new understanding of who you are. It's kind of like finding out you've been adopted into a new family. This new identity, as a child of God, becomes the very foundation for a whole new way of living. Second is character, and this is the idea that an internal change isn't supposed to stay hidden. It's going to start showing up on the outside. It'll inevitably produce visible evidence, what the sermon calls fruit, in how you act, how you react, and the choices you make every day. Now, the source material points right to this list from the book of Galatians. And these things aren't presented as a to-do list you have to achieve through willpower. Instead, they're shown as the natural, visible results of that internal transformation really taking root. And third, relationships. The sermon argues that a transformed heart turns you outward. The idea is that our default mode is to focus inward on what we want. But this spiritual change flips that. The focus becomes serving, forgiving, and encouraging others. Basically, how you treat people becomes the ultimate test.
Okay, I hear you. This all sounds great in theory, right? But the next logical question is, how on earth is this supposed to happen in real life? The good news is, the sermon doesn't just leave it as a big abstract idea. The speaker gives us this really clear, memorable picture drawn from the book of Romans. Think of it as a ladder with three distinct rungs, or steps, you have to climb to get to this transformation. And here they are, the three steps: reflect, repent, and rely. Pretty simple, right? Let's quickly break down what each one actually means, according to the sermon. The first step, the bottom rung of the ladder, is all about just pausing. It's about stopping the crazy pace of life, looking up, and reflecting on what the sermon calls God's mercy. And you use that perspective to become truly self-aware, to honestly look at what's really going on in your own heart. The second step, repent, is framed as a huge turning point. After you've reflected on what's in your heart, this step is about making a conscious choice. This slide really shows that contrast between what the sermon calls the pattern of this world and God's way, and the decision to turn from one to the other. Now, this final step on the ladder is to rely, and this is the game changer. It's this crucial shift from trying to do it all yourself to depending on something else. The argument is that real, lasting change doesn't come from your own strength, but from relying on a spiritual power to be transformed by the renewing of your mind.
So, how does all of this, the problem, the goal, the process, actually translate into your Monday morning? Well, this sermon doesn't just end with a nice summary. It wraps up with a very direct and very personal challenge.
The big takeaway here isn't just to understand transformation, but to actually do it.
The challenge thrown down to the listener is to intentionally try to live the difference through conscious choices every single day of the week.
And this slide shows exactly what that can look like. It's not vague at all. It's broken down into specific, doable actions for the week ahead. These are concrete ways to start bridging that gap between the label you wear and the life you live.
So ultimately, after breaking down this whole sermon, we're left with this one last, very personal question. It shifts the whole thing from just information about a topic to a potential call to action, leaving you to think about how or even if any of these ideas might apply to your own life.